These are the reasons why I will no longer ever be a girlfriend again. I was just walking along the forest paths and got the little ping from the universe to share and flow into my realizations and thought processes on what it means to be a girlfriend after I've lived in the Middle East for 4 years. And it's so cute where I decided to sit, have this little rock greeting, and it says hello with the little peace sign. So at first I thought it said help and I was like a little freaked out, but I'm not recording with my fancy camera and microphone today, so I'm really hoping that you guys can hear me okay. My name is Roya Allegra, and I am here to share my reflections and perceptions of my own healing journey, and here to support you on yours as well. Yeah, it's really funny how just so casually I'll get these sudden urges to share and create specific topics, because it's not that I haven't really deeply pondered this topic before and I've wanted to share it many times, but I guess me being in the middle of the forest was the time. I think the biggest thing that I hear in American culture in general is, what is the point of marriage? What is marriage? It is man-made, and it is a construct of a contract that may or may not be an outdated philosophy or concept, but it is a devotion. And I think the biggest argument is, why would I want to place a contract on love? Why would I want to involve the government? And it's so interesting because I genuinely, wholeheartedly was against marriage my whole life. I didn't have a good representation of the safety and cause of marriage to begin with, as with, I'm sure many of us don't in this coming generation. However, living in the Middle East fully changed my perception and changed my mind. I lived in Egypt for 3 years, and I also lived in Dubai, the United Emirates rather, last year. And I got to just attune myself to not only the people I met and the experiences I had, but genuinely the encoding of that land, the ancestral energies, the feminine consciousness, the masculine consciousness. It's like these really specific codes that I clearly worked with in this life and many lives before. And so again, going back to the number one reasoning of why many people don't understand why we would create marriage. Well, another thing that we use on a daily basis that is man-made is time and money. These are man-made constructs that we have implemented in our current society in order to have it run more smoothly. We cannot function without time in our current society, and we cannot currently function without money. Although maybe these are outdated sources of finite protection, but they're also the structures that we have right now in order to make things run smoothly and in order to co-create our society. And so, what structure do we have amongst the protection of taking care of a woman? It is marriage. And this is the only one that we have. There was a mentor that I really looked up to, and I no longer really follow, but I definitely took my golden nuggets of wisdom from her and carried on with my life. But I do contribute my evolving of my perception around marriage, of the land in the Middle East, and my personal experiences as well with romantic connection. A very contrasting experience in that specific region of the Middle East. I was treated better by men than I ever have in my life, more than anywhere else. But at the same token, I was also treated as poorly as men have treated me in America. If not possibly worse sometimes, but actually I still think I still think that the Western approach to women is all in all more vulgar. I'm not saying that hookup culture doesn't exist in the Middle East. It very much does, and it runs at probably a different level of manipulation because of their apprehensions and their religious consciousness. The way that I was served as a feminine spirit, as a feminine woman, in these places was really hard to come back to America and live as we have here. Really not what you hear in the news. And I'm not really saying that the certain harassments I experienced were worth it there. All in all, that's obviously why I left ultimately. But going back to the original topic, that marriage is a man-made construct. It is also the oldest devotional reclamation of love that there is. And being a girlfriend or a boyfriend is extremely new. So much to that it is not present in our ancestral memory or our DNA or even been passed down by so many generations. And I'm not saying the name of marriage was oh so perfect in the past or where it came from or the origin of it at all. But what responsibility does a man truly hold over you if there is no consequence or occurrences for him to leave? And of course he can leave in a marriage. That is not the point. The point is just that a minded man is a dutiful man. He has duty on his mind. He has you as his sense of life purpose on his mind. And I'm not saying these can't occur in a girlfriend-boyfriend relationship. I'm not really speaking on other people's experiences with them. I'm truly speaking on my own reflections and what I've experienced in my life. And I'm not judging people who are a girlfriend. I'm obviously not here to change the Western world, but I am here to give myself the opportunity and understanding of why I never felt like I could relate to the Western American way. I really spent my whole life dating the way that we have known, the way that is presented to us. At least I didn't grow up in a conservative place. I grew up in California as well, which is its own little world in itself. And the way people date in bigger cities and in California is very much hookup culture. I'm not saying that I haven't been properly pursued by men. I absolutely have. I've actually personally never had a man come to me simply to hook up, which this is not me trying to be a pick-me or anything like that. I just really know that I've carried myself a specific way in life to know that a man would get his head bit off if he tried to do that to me. And I definitely take pride in that because I have never resonated with hookup culture. I think there were times where I was completely just doing what everyone else was doing. Like I literally didn't know that there was another way to be genuinely pursued because this is not what I was seeing in my schools, in my friend groups, and anywhere. Like people were not pursuing marriage in California growing up. So how was I supposed to know that that was like the decent way to do things? I also raised myself as well, like through my teenage years. So this also had a really big impact of me trying to learn how to navigate the world and how to find what feels good for me and what doesn't feel good for me. And I truly was just mirroring what my community and society was bringing upon me. I just didn't know. And so after moving to the Middle East, although I did not get married, I definitely pushed my Western views on the men that tried to pursue me. And I literally would make fun of them because I'm like, because of my own, like, you know, perceptions and brainwashing that I was like, no, love is supposed to be this way, this, and this, and this. And projecting that onto them to the point where I would laugh at anyone that talked about marriage. I thought it was funny. I thought it was a joke. And I don't really think it had to do with my adolescence. It was only 4 years ago. But I mean, it could have had a little bit to do with my frontal lobe not developing yet. That is definitely a factor. But I think that me really being immersed in the true connection of love and that society to understand a lot of different things, but specifically that marriage is of such high value, and there almost, for me, feels like no relationship until we are actually truly devoted. And I don't believe that it takes years to understand devotion to someone. I simply don't. Again, this is not projecting anyone else's experience. This is my personal experience that I almost knew immediately, and that person almost knew immediately, but I obviously was just not in that. Like, it took me a while to understand this level of consciousness that monogamy is important, that marriage is important, that devotion is so important, and God is important. And it doesn't, for me, the experience of marriage doesn't necessarily have to do with being conservative, although I do understand the importance of being conservative in certain situations. But it's not that I would feel, not that I would do it out of fearing God or fearing anything, really. It just really, truly never resonated. As I sat in many party scenes or even just, you know, groups in schools, I didn't get like the thrill of hooking up. I really felt self-conscious talking about it, and it really did not come from a place of shame. It just came from a like, why is that like guised as a good thing? Why is it like, I never understood why like two bodies unionizing in a very potentially reckless and not so sensible way was deemed as a good thing. I didn't understand it. And then growing up and having the boyfriends I've had who, many of them did provide for me and protect me and take care of me, I still always felt like something was missing. And I didn't really feel like I could ever genuinely be close to those men because there clearly was this gap. And I honestly, truly didn't know that the gap was like that I was supposed to be married to whoever was pursuing me that closely. Like, I just didn't know until I went to the Middle East, and I really was someone who didn't genuinely believe in monogamy. Like, I always, not to like bring in my personal life too much, but let's just say I really enjoyed dating women, and I also enjoyed dating men. So monogamy was a bit conflicting for me. But in those years, I understood the devotion of monogamy and like why closing that container of love can create this level of intimacy that leaving that container open wouldn't ever create, because you're truly faced with the reflection of your mirror and your shadow and the elevation of love that can really come through in such a closed container. And so, also, just to add on a side note, learned a lot from being in the Middle East simply because it's really honestly kind of not funny, but like makes you think about why getting sober in America is such a big deal. And then in the Middle East, it's like most people are sober. And like they don't just serve beer at like any restaurant, like you have to go to a bar in order to be served in that way. And so that's personally how I got sober, was literally just by inserting myself into an Islamic country and like you know, like, oh wait, you mean people aren't blacked out for brunch every week? Like, oh, okay. So it was like just like witnessing a collective consciousness that is devoted to God in a very powerful way. This creates a ripple effect within the core of your essence, one way or another. Just like the second I landed back in America, I was in the collective consciousness of, I felt the addictive energy around me, and then just seeing all the billboards of like everybody's vices and their voids, and I was like, oh, so this is something to navigate as well. So really, whatever societal structure you're around, like if you're not super highly aware and in tuned with the collective consciousness, like you will absorb these like thought patterns if you're not careful. And so that's why I really just didn't understand the severity of what it meant and how harmful being a girlfriend was for my soul and my spirit, because it just like, well, you know, there's no responsibility over me, there's no genuine protection over me, because the government doesn't recognize that as your spouse or your partner, really, because again, the nuance of boyfriend girlfriend is so much more new, and it's so much more like a just he said she said kind of thing. Like, how many times do people get to the point of like, what do you mean we were together? No, we weren't. Like, personally, I've never dealt with that, but like, wouldn't it be just so much more clear if like you were married or not married? You can't say like, oh, I'm not married to her. Like, okay, so then you're probably not really together. It's just a more clear and concise protective mannerism for a man to devote himself to you and have responsibility. And of course there's the argument of all the like lacking husbands in the world, but again, I'm not speaking on other people's experiences. I'm speaking on my own path in life, really, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters, is what feels good for me. And playing a role of a girlfriend, of that level of intimacy without the structure of devotion, really seems so hollow. And it felt hollow for me. It felt shallow for me. It almost never felt good. I believe in this time of me refining my life, I am able to be clear of anyone else's, like a partner or a lover's residual karmic energy, to fully feel myself, because we're not connecting on that sexual level. I don't know if you can say that on here. I'm still confused, but you're not connecting on that sexual level. So therefore, I am not clouded with any residual spiritual energy from them. Like, I am fully in my own capacity to think clearly and deciding and deciphering my boundaries, sifting through red flags, and really refining what a lifelong partner actually looks like, feels like, and senses like. Okay, y'all, I have more to add. I don't really think that I bluntly got to the point, but truly, I don't think the exchange of female oracle, spiritual, loving devotion to a man is an even exchange while he is simply your boyfriend. It's not about, this is beyond body count. This is beyond kind of like the material plane of life, the earthly plane. This is truly like my resonance upgrades any romantic partner that I'm involved with. I hold these feminine encodings that will up-level a man. I have like very powerful spiritual forces within me that will heal a man, and just by interacting with me, just by sharing myself with him in that way. So if it's not in the enclosure and protection of marriage, then why am I clearing his karmic debris with my womb for him just to be his girlfriend? Like, to me, that felt very demeaning. I know my oracle powers, and I know the not even like the usefulness of this. It's like, I just know that me being next to a man is up leveling his worth and like presence in the world so much. And it is like simply not because of looks, or again, we're not talking earthly plane here. I'm truly talking on a spiritual level. Like, I am such a devotional, open-hearted guide for anyone that's in my life. And so if I'm sharing intimacy with you, like, wow, okay, so imagine the levels of like what I'm bringing in that sphere and functionality that's like goes so beyond words, so beyond what I can explain. And honestly, if this doesn't reach the right people, like if this somehow gets to the red pill or whatever, like they would just totally laugh like and call me like crazy or something, because it's not of what most people understand, right? This is like super high level understanding of what sexual intimacy truly is. Like, this is not just like body count or you're a slut or you're not a slut. It has nothing to do with this. It's truly just like, why would I progress someone that isn't wholeheartedly in totality of devotion, of the highest good for me and devotional energy? What does that do for me? It actually drains my source of loving energy. You're literally stealing my youth. You're stealing my magnetism. And I say stealing because what are you returning? Like, oh, like a pleasurable experience. Okay, but I experience pleasure literally by breathing air. Like, I am such a sensual, like, radiant being that literally, like, I can I don't want to get too graphic, but like just being next to this water is pleasurable for me. I can find like highly magnetizing sensation in really just about anything, because this is the feminine spirit. Like, this is how the feminine is. Like, we are pleasure. We are like orgasm. We are like that we are the shrine of pleasure. And so I'm not saying that on a physical level men can't be pleasurable. Sure, but I am pleasure, baby. So like, why should I spiritually upgrade you and do a lot of your ancestral karmic work for you on the earth grids? And I know everything happens for a reason. I learned these lessons and I understood this consciousness at the specific times for those specific reasons, and I honored that truth. But now I put my foot down and I guard myself, because I understand now what I did for the past partners and the past lovers, and I understood it at the time too. And that's why I said, what am I getting out of this? And it's not to look down on those people. It's just, yeah, there were some ends that needed to be closed, and they were not closed. And of course, I don't know if I was pursued for marriage at that time that I would have gone for it, to be honest. And thank goddess I didn't. Because I've learned so much in this last year alone. But yeah, I guess I just had to be a little bit more blunt because I was like kind of beating around the bush to sound more like, you know, to sound a bit more like logical for other people to understand. But yes, that's my ultimate reasoning. That's my ultimate truth. And I guess I could have saved that 30 minutes and just said that, but here we are. Okay, love you guys. Bye. I'm going to be so well equipped of smelling out and sniffing out bullshit and beauty, that when I go back into the world in that way, I will be fully educated and prepared. And I do wish that for literally every woman, to understand that the reason why modesty exists in other countries is not necessarily only because the fear of God. It is the fear of man. It is the fear of men, because in other cultures, men are not really lying to each other that men can be dangerous. Men can be predatory. Men's natural shadow within is one of being a predator. And so men used to have a lot of different ways to navigate that shadow within them. They had a lot of outlets. They were hunters. They were primally driven because they were more hands-on. They could take their anger out in the workforce with whatever kind of strength or hands-on job they were doing. So basically what I'm trying to say, and also culturally, there was a lot of ceremony surrounding that primal energy in order to transmute it and channel it properly. But we no longer have those indigenous practices anymore, and we no longer have those like really in-depth structures of men being able to channel their predatory energy properly. Therefore, where does it go? They don't know what to do with it. And they're in a spell of, that's a whole other video in itself, and I could literally speak on that for hours, of the deconstruction of the masculine, the weaponry of deconstructing the masculine mind and spirit. And it clearly is an epidemic, in my opinion. So I witnessed in the Middle East the lack of protection that I received as a daughter growing up, especially because I am Iranian, and I was supposed to literally be like, just the way that a lot of healthy families in the Middle East treat their daughters is like so like exaggeratedly protective. And I'm not this is like for healthy families. This is what I'm speaking on specifically. I'm not speaking on unhealthy, toxic family dynamics. But Iran or Middle Eastern daughters are just so well like cared for and protected and spoiled and like served, and just like, wow, I really missed out on that in my life. And this is probably why I entered the world without understanding danger. Like, I really went out there in the world not understanding danger, because I just see so much beauty in everyone and everything. And even if I can see the evidence of shadows, I know that there's shadows even within myself, so I can look past it in people, because I didn't understand how to protect myself yet. But because of the Middle East, I was able to be of witness the way that women carry themselves, the way that women are served and honored in a divine way. I understood the codes of protection and protecting yourself and not being so out there. And even, I know I'm sharing so much on the internet too, but like having this level of privacy and a real shield around you and society, a real shield from you and men, and not just like smiling with grace. Actually, so interesting, but like I am like, I have like a resting, and I feel like I've said this before in a video, but I have like a resting smile face. I do not have an RBF. I truly have a resting smile face. This is why my smile lines are so deep, because I'm just always smiling. And I had to genuinely try to unlearn that, at least in Egypt, because actually women are not taught to serve men there in that way. Like when a girl goes out in the world, she's like not taught to just like smile at men. She's actually taught to fucking mean mug them, because she doesn't want to attract that kind of attention from men. And it's just so interesting how in the Western world, like, women are just taught to like say thank you and please and smile and like be happy that a man is catcalling you. Whereas like in the Middle East, like, you're taught to like have a effing boundary against men. And this is not a video to hate on men. I actually really love men, and I love being served by men. And so I love that all that healthy men bring into the world, because it's part of why women are able to, like, the healthy fathers and the healthy brothers and the healthy family members and the healthy providers in life, and like, they created a level of safety for us, for the feminine to flourish. Like, I honor men in every way, and I'm not a man hater, okay? So a predatory hater, okay, a predator hater, okay. But so this isn't like a video of like to be afraid of all men or anything like that. It's just truly my reflections on like why I'll never be a girlfriend again, why the containership of girlfriend is so too freeform for me. And like, clearly ancestrally, like, my ancestors didn't have girlfriends, like boyfriends. Like, my ancestors, like, who knows, like, I know my Italian side was very conservative, so they definitely didn't have girlfriends and boyfriends. And then my Iranian side, the women probably had like straight up poetry books written about them, and like, I don't know, men were probably like doing anything in their power in order to pursue those women. And I'm not saying that there is a perfect way in life in general. I just wholeheartedly believe that the way a divine masculine will show up will never leave room for any doubt or any questions of insincerity. And of course, in life, you have to become a reciprocal to this. Like, you can't, you know, say one thing and then completely act in a different way. And like, you also like can't really swing the pendulum. Like, I'm not gonna swing my pendulum to the other direction and like judge everyone or judge society for doing things a certain way. I know why the West tried to evolve out of the older standard of marriage. Dating culture did not serve me or benefit me or teach me really anything about love. I really only think that the Middle East taught me about love, and maybe just like one of my girlfriends. But okay, I'm gonna close up this this video, and thank you for being here to reflect with me. Sending everyone who's trying to create a harmonious relationship many blessings and just like a healthy, desirable outcome for whatever journey that you're on, and sending you so much love and so much light. XOXO, Roya.